some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to Some Dare Call It Conspiracy with Brent Lee and Neil Sanders.
As the planet spirals into a fascist dystopia, we thought someone really should keep a record of this decline, so that when the aliens are sifting through the ashes of civilization, they might be able to see where it all went wrong.
This is The World According to Some.
Or as all the hepcats are calling it, T.W.A.T.S. So it's the 23rd of February, and Elon Musk continues to be a massive prick. Basically, he decided to stick his oar in with loads and loads of different agencies. And I'll just read what it said. Sky News reported that hundreds of thousands of federal workers have received an email with the following instruction. Please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week and CC your manager. What an absolute prick.
What?
It's nonsense on a lot of levels, really, because it's one of those things where it's like, one, if you're trying to drive government efficiency, don't take me out of my job to write back to you. Two, you don't know what the bloody hell it is that our job entails or what our company does. And three, how are you going to sift through all that and decide which is valid or not? Also,
that doesn't seem very efficient.
No, and also it's just a wanker's move. If your manager did that, you'd be like, "Do you not trust me to be doing my job or whatever?" That's just it's micromanagement to a sort of huge degree, and he doesn't even work at the fucking company. Apparently, he's not even in charge of Doge, if we remember. He's just some sort of consultant to the president somehow, which totally isn't to get him off the hook for any upcoming lawsuits. So he posted on Twitter, Elon did. Consistent with President @real Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as resignation.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now,
what?
That's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, that's the sort of shit that I'd throw a tantrum and resign personally, and then spend the rest of the afternoon walking around frantically Googling how to retract an email that you've just sent to everybody. But this is the point. It's micromanagement, and also I don't think it's even legal, to be quite honest, because I really don't think he's got jurisdiction over a lot of these agencies. Certainly, Kash Patel didn't think so. Kash Patel, the newly hired director of the FBI, he sent his own email to employees to clarify where he and the FBI stood. He said FBI personnel may have received an email from OPM requesting information. The FBI, through the Office of the Director, is in charge of all of our review processes, and we will conduct reviews in accordance with FBI procedures. When and if further information is required, we will coordinate the responses. For now, please pause any response. So, Kash Patel has immediately had to spring into action and say to everyone at the FBI, don't do that.
Well, certainly, if this could be a breach of security.
Well, that is one point. It's difficult to know whether he's basically going, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Or if he's actually gone, hang on, we can't really do that because there's a lot of stuff, as you say, that will be sensitive, shall we say.
Yeah, sensitive information from many of these federal institutions.
Yeah. Got this close to assassinating Castro's son. Oh, right. Yeah, I'll just email that to Elon Musk, shall I? Or whatever it is that they get up to. But yeah, this is the point. It's outrageous. Similarly, at the State Department, Ambassador Tibor Nagy, currently performing the duties of the Undersecretary for Management, emailed colleagues to say that no one is obligated to report their activities outside of their department chain of command. Also, supervisors at the Department of Justice told employees to refrain from replying to the email as they feared it could trigger ethics violations. Because, as I say, like the DOJ, a lot of them will be ongoing court cases and things like that and investigations. So it's really not a great idea. The Independent reported one of the more fiery responses came from Senator Tina Smith, who's a junior senator from Minnesota. She wrote on Twitter, mocking Musk's own questionable employment status within the federal government. This is the ultimate dick boss move from Musk, except he isn't even the boss, he's just a dick, said the junior, wrote the junior senator for Minnesota.
This is senator. Wow.
She went on to say, I bet a lot of people have had an experience like this with a bad boss. There's an email in your inbox on Saturday night saying, prove to me your worthiness by Monday or else. I'm on the side of the workers, not the billionaire asshole bosses.
She gets my vote. Wicked.
Yeah. It's Trouble in Paradise, it would seem. Like I mean it's one of those things that as I say, it begs us any sort of all sorts of questions as to what on earth was he thinking? Like, because from a practical standpoint, he can't possibly go through all those emails. Think about how many people work for the FBI alone. And then he sent it to the State Department, the Secretary of Justice, the DOJ. God knows how many thousands of employees got this email. Like, realistically, seriously, what was he going to do with that data?
I think every single one of those employees should have sent him an email back with like redacted information.
Yeah, sensitive. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, this is how would he even know? How would he even know? Because this is the thing. He goes on to later say, when he gets a lot of criticism for this, for being a wanker, that I was only doing it to see if like people respond, because like there's so many like people that aren't really working and stuff like that, and it's like you don't know. That's not a good way to test. Right? No one that responds to this email is working. What if someone gets 500 emails a day because they're working really hard? And you sack them because they don't respond in time to your email. What if somebody's got like a huge backlog of emails or
Yeah, it
something like
ended
that?
up in their spam folder, so they
Yeah,
got sacked.
what if you misspell like the name? Like, we've all been in companies where it's like, yeah, sorry, I don't know why, but it emails to the wrong person or whatever, or like, no, I haven't received that. Have you spelt my name correctly? Like, and yeah, but again, it's just Elon Musk throwing his weight around, and it was probably one of those stupid ideas that he has, like, because he doesn't really like. I don't think he's really got a huge amount of business acumen. That's the sort of thing that somebody would do on like a sitcom, like that a boss would do on a sitcom, or that somebody who doesn't understand how businesses work would go, well, that's a good way for me to find out what my staff are doing, to fucking interfere with their day.
Well, that's kind of apt. It's like The Apprentice.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is
Christ.
something Trump would do. I
Yeah.
guess, like on The Apprentice, somebody probably thought, "Oh, that's a great idea." It's
Shit.
probably
I
his
wonder if it
idea.
is. I wonder if it is actually off The Apprentice, or if I
Yeah.
like. The only thing I know about The Apprentice is the English version on the very first series. The woman called Miranda. I used to know her, and she was actually very nice. Like, she didn't come across well. No one comes across terribly well on the show. That's sort of the point of it. But yeah, that's an interesting point, though. I wonder if he has seen that, if that's a Trump thing or whatever, because it is pointless as well. Because like you just can't interpret it, and what his idea of work and what other people's idea is, it could be completely different. And as I say, in order for you to be able to appraise that, you'd have to understand what everybody's role was, and you couldn't possibly do that.
No, and that's why I think like that's actually kind of probably what happened here. It's more of like, oh, that would make good TV.
Yeah.
that would make a certain image like
Yeah.
to other people. It's
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, virtue signaling in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite. It's like that. It's like, let's play boss. What would a boss do? And it's like, well, that's not what a boss would do, but that's what somebody who doesn't know what a
What
boss
Dick
would
Boss
do
would
might.
do.
Yeah, well, yeah, they might think that a boss would do. Like, it's this idea of like, I'm the puppet master. I've got my fingers in all the pies and nodes and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, that's not how it works. That's really not how it works. Like, that would be pointless. Like, there'd be no reason for you to have under managers and stuff like that if it was reliant on you knowing everything. But hey ho, this is what happens when you get really rich men that think that they know stuff, but actually aren't particularly bright, really. And speaking of really rich men that think that they know stuff but aren't actually very bright, Joe Rogan had a guest. Joe Rogan had a guest who had some thoughts and opinions.
Oh dear.
No, well, I mean, it started off so well because the guest was Woody Harrelson, and so
Oh
it was.
dear. Oh dear.
Well, yes and no. Here's the thing, because like in the past, Woody Harrelson has been the sort of like, some of his things have been kind of sensible and blah blah blah. Latterly, he appears to be sort of just turning into that person who's read some shit on the internet, and it's bizarre because like, he's like, I don't think he's a stupid person by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely can act. But as I say, he's got some opinions.
Well, he's always been a 9/11 truther.
Yeah. But he was also into sort of like marijuana advocacy, but look, also
that was the good stuff.
the use of hemp as opposed to like paper and things like that, and the idea of sustainability through sort of less deforestation because you can use hemp instead of wood and things like that, or to make, say, paper and etc. all the things that
Which
we
is
do.
obviously his pipeline into what he's into now.
Yeah, but again, that kind of shows you, like, that like, I mean, some of these things that he's going to be saying like seem to fall on one political spectrum, but like, I always took it, particularly in the past, and maybe I was completely wrong, that he was a bit of a sort of hippie lefty type. Like, and as I say, that's us. That's how we got into it. We got into like that through anti-authoritarian, anti-police, anti-war, listening to fucking hip hop and Bill Hicks and shit like that. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, it doesn't discriminate, does it? But anyway, Rogan comes out swinging. Joe Rogan says, everything Dr. Robert Malone said has turned out to be true.
Great. Wow. Jamie, can we get a fact check on that?
Well, Jamie doesn't fact check him, but basically, so Robert Malone, for the people that don't know, he looks a bit like Kenny Rogers. He's a doctor, and he was actually involved in a very, very small way with the creation of, is it mRNA delivery technology? Now, he went on to try and claim that he invented the whole thing, which is just not true. It's absolutely not true. And he tried to get some sort of like cachet off that, and that didn't work. So he then went on to being like, oh, it's deadly, it kills you. And one of the things that they were saying was that the mRNA vaccine will leave the spike protein from COVID in your body, which will cause irreparable damage down the line. And the major flaw with this is that the mRNA technology doesn't have the spike protein in it. In fact, that's sort of the point. Like, whereas old vaccines would give you a small dose of the virus or the condition of the disease or whatever it is that they want you to become accustomed to, so that your body can generate an immune response. What the mRNA does is it makes your body do the same thing without the necessity for the contact with the virus or the disease. So it
just gives the information as opposed to the actual virus.
Yeah, so it kind of, I don't know what would be a good sort of analogy because I was going to use computers, but as you know, I
don't
don't understand
computers.
No.
Don't
So,
even try.
so it's like when the computer does the hologram thing, and they lost it. Anyway, so he's completely wrong. But anyway, Rogan says everything Dr. Robert Malone has said turned out to be true, all of it, including Yale. Just released some study about people producing spike proteins 700 plus days after the injections. And so this seems to be supporting Robert Malone's contention that the spike proteins stay in your body. And this is referring to a recent Yale study that looked at the after effects of vaccination and COVID. And the author of the study said, typically, spike protein could be detected for a few days after vaccination, but some participants with PVS had detectable levels more than 700 days after their last vaccination. Persistent spike protein has been associated with long COVID as well. That was surprising to find spike protein in circulation at such a late time point, said Iwasaki, who's the doctor. We don't know if the level of spike protein is causing the chronic symptoms because there were other participants with PVS, which is post-vaccination syndrome, who didn't have any measurable spike protein. But it could be one mechanism underlying this syndrome. So basically, they don't know what's going off with this. They're looking at it, and what it's saying is that some people have got this spike protein in them. We'll explain it later because they go on, but as you can see, that's what the doctor says from the study, and even there, it's like, well, is he talking about people who've had COVID, or is he talking about people who've had the vaccine, or is he talking about a combination? We'll come back to that, because Woody Harrelson then decides to accuse Dr. Anthony Fauci of, and I quote, doing some extraordinarily evil shit during his time as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, or NIAID. So the Cheers actor, who's 63, God, we're all getting old, which is nature's cruelest trick. He joined podcaster Joe Rogan on the show, The Joe Rogan Experience, and the pair talked about their hopes for the country's future in health. Harrelson described Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, as heroic and a man who cares deeply, just before comparing his views with Fauci's. And then he goes to say about Fauci, he started with the AZT thing, and AZT was known to be highly toxic, really ineffective drug, and of course that was the one that they picked, Harrelson told Rogan. And so they started using that again, and I don't know how many people got killed. That killed friends of mine. AZT was very toxic, and they finally had to yank it, and now they use different chemical cocktails. But like, Fauci did some extraordinarily evil shit, and he knows what he did. Rogan then chimed in about Fauci's recent pardon, stating he's pre-pardoned federally, but he's not pre-pardoned state-wise. So on Biden's last day in the Oval Office, Fauci received a preemptive pardon from the former president, much to the fury of his critics, who believed that the doctor might have lied to Congress about the origin of COVID and sending money to this particular lab in Wuhan to research gain-of-function viruses. And it just didn't. The reason that he was given a preemptive pardon was to stop a witch hunt, which is the same thing that he did to Hunter Biden, because he knew that essentially they would be targets that and that could be abused, regardless of like if they'd done anything, which I don't think either of them had really. Like they could be persecuted, and it could be whipped up into a circus, and just cause incredible like harm for these people, like outside of the normal realms of the law. Now, Hunter was pardoned on some tax stuff, and I believe the gun charge as well. Not having the gun. You're not supposed to have a gun if you're crack addicted. Which, by the way, is gun control. Which is odd that the right wing have cherry picked this particular time to think that is what should be done. And there is an argument that Biden shouldn't have pardoned his son because it sets a precedent.
Yeah, totally.
But Donald Trump's a prick. So I'd have gone, fuck it. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Let my kid be persecuted because of honor? Donald Trump's the president. Honor's gone out the window. So
True.
yeah. But the pardon for Fauci, who's not been actually officially accused of any crimes because he's not committed any crimes, will date back to 2014, which was when the National Institute of Health awarded a multi-million-dollar grant to EcoHealth Alliance, which was a research group to study bat coronaviruses in Wuhan, where the COVID-19 eventually started. Because of this preemptive pardon, Rogan said, but the states can still sue him. Not only that, when you're pardoned, you can no longer plead the fifth, so you could be held for perjury. There's a lot of issues with being pardoned that I don't think Biden took into consideration, or Fauci took into consideration either. I think he just wanted anything to protect him because he knew it was coming. It's just a bummer that someone had that kind of power for so long and was such a fucking monster. And that there is a problem, right, with that, in as much as
I
he
am not
didn't.
even a Biden fan, but come on. A
He didn't.
monster.
Oh, he's talking about Fauci personally
Oh,
there,
fucking hell.
which is, but he, yeah. Fauci's not done anything. He's honestly going, yeah, the states could sue Fauci. The states could sue Fauci. We could do him for perjury. We could send him to jail by bypassing the pardon, by prosecuting him on a state level. And the problem is that it's like, for what? Seriously, for what? Like when and if any conspiracy theorists listen, they might be going for the vaccine, Neil, for killing everyone with the vaccine. It's like he didn't. But that's not even what they're talking about. They're talking
And
about
Trump did the vaccine. Come on.
absolutely
He
what
took
they're talking.
all the responsibility for his amazing work on Operation Warp Speed.
Warp speed. But
You know what I
here's
mean?
the thing.
Like, they all seem to forget that.
But they're not arguing for that. They're arguing for him lying about the origin of COVID, which has not been proven by any stretch of the imagination, and the majority of evidence, the best evidence, points to it being zoonotic and not being a lab leak at all. And AZT, like Woody Harrelson's got this idea. So if people don't know, AZT was AIDS medicine. It was one of the first AIDS medicines, and I'll just read this. AZT, or azithromycin, was originally, I've probably butchered that, was originally developed in the 1960s by a US researcher as a way to thwart cancer. The compound was supposed to insert itself into the DNA of a cancer cell and mess with its ability to replicate and produce more tumor cells. But it didn't work when it was tested in mice, and it was put aside. But 2 decades later, after AIDS has emerged as a new infectious disease, the pharmaceutical company Burroughs Wellcome, already known for its antiviral drugs, began a massive test of potential HIV agents, hoping to find anything that might work against this new virus. Among the things tested was something called Compound S, a remade version of the original AZT. And when it was thrown into a dish with animal cells infected with HIV, it seemed to block the virus activity. Right, so several things. We're talking about a time when there was no available treatment at all, and people were absolutely desperate. And AZT was the only thing that seemed to show any use at all. Now, you'll notice that it says that it broke down the DNA of cancer, and this is where you get the conspiracy theory. And this is promoted by people like, was it Joseph McCullough? Was that the guy that did it? And lots of other people. It's become one of those sort of ubiquitous things that AIDS didn't necessarily kill people, or AIDS only killed certain people. There's all sorts of theories. One theory is that it was targeted to kill black people. The other thing was it was targeted to just kill black and gay people. And then there's a further theory that actually the thing that kills you is the medicine, which is the AZT, or the medicine vastly speeds up the death process, because what it does is it destroys your DNA so that the HIV can't spread onto that bit of your DNA. That's not what it does. That is the conspiracy theory, and that comes from that knowledge of how it's supposed to work against cancers. So they've got AZT, and in the early 80s there was a trial of 300 people, and it seemed to help a little bit, but the main point was that there was no other treatments. Now, this study that they did with 300 people, it's controversial. Reports surfaced soon after the results that they may have been skewed, since the doctors weren't provided with a standard way of treating the other problems associated with AIDS, such as pneumonia, diarrhea, and other symptoms, which makes determining whether the AZT alone was responsible for the dramatic results nearly impossible. As I say, like, this is at a time where they're dealing with a new. It's not brand new, but it's like it's never been as prevalent, and AIDS causes all sorts of other problems. For example, some patients receive blood transfusions to help their immune systems, including new healthy blood and immune cells, and this could have actually contributed to them fighting the virus, which could have been that could have been misunderstood as being as a result of the AZT alone. There are also stories of patients from the 12 centres where the study was conducted pooling their pills to better the chances that they would get at least some of the drug rather than just placebos. So because they were desperate and they knew that some of them will be AZT and some of them would be placebos, they shoved them all together so that basically everybody got at least some AZT. Now, the problem is that this drug was also really, really expensive. If anybody's ever seen the play or the television series Angels in America, that's about HIV in the early stages, and it discusses Roy Cohn and how he was able to sort of stockpile AZT. And here's the thing. Roy Cohn was one of the most powerful people in America at that time, and he actively fought to get AZT. That gives you an idea of, like, he was getting it when other people weren't. It wasn't available to anyone else, and he was getting huge amounts of it. Why would he have done that if there was better stuff? He wouldn't. Now, nobody's suggesting that AZT was a cure-all, because it didn't. It simply didn't. It helped, and in some cases it prolonged life. The problem was that a lot of people suggested that HIV might have slightly mutated or altered itself, meaning that AZT wasn't effective or became less effective as the disease became more prominent. And today there's several classes of HIV drugs which are each designed to block the virus at specific points in its life cycle, and these are used in combination, and they have the best chance of keeping HIV at bay, and they can hopefully sort of keep people alive for a long time. And these are called antiretroviral drugs, and they've made it possible for people with diagnosed with HIV to live long and relatively healthy lives as long as they continue to take the medications. For some people, though, AZT is still a part of that medication. So despite its limitations, because it doesn't work for some people, and high doses can be dangerous, there is a suggestion that there are some positive effects. But here's the thing, again, the mischaracterization that Woody Harrelson has got there is that it wasn't supposed to cure. It was the only possible thing that they had at the time to try and prolong people's lives. And it's very, very sad that he had friends who took AZT and died. But the likelihood is, particularly if it was in the early 1980s, that if they hadn't have taken that AZT, they sadly would have died a lot sooner. So it's pretty irresponsible for Woody Harrelson and Joe Rogan to be flaunting that shit. And the spike proteins. So this was apparently confirming that Robert Malone was right. He's always been right. And the quote that was taken said, yeah, the spike proteins were shown in people 700 days afterwards. So anyway, Reuters explains, a small US study explored whether immune markers seen in many long COVID sufferers were also present in people with post-vaccine symptoms, but it did not suggest that long COVID is really post-vaccine injury. as is claimed by a headline shared on social media. And this is basically what they tried to characterize it as on the Rogan, that the spike protein were there as a result of vaccine injury, whereas they weren't. They were there in people who had been vaccinated, but as a result of long COVID. The study doesn't make this claim. It even points out that long COVID predates vaccines. The study doesn't address the source of the spike proteins found in some PVS sufferers. Iwasaki told Reuters in an email that the team is currently looking to see if the proteins derive from the vaccine or possibly from a prior infection with the virus. We don't know if the level of spike protein is causing the chronic symptoms because there were other participants with PVS who didn't have any measurable spike protein at all, Akiko Iwasaka, Sterling Professor of Immunobiology at YSM and co-senior author of the study, said in a press release. It could be one mechanism underlying the symptom. Responding to the misleading posts online, Iwasaki pointed out that many people developed long COVID before vaccines were available. She also noted studies that show people with long COVID who were not vaccinated. She also noted studies that show people with long COVID who were not vaccinated benefited from getting vaccinated afterwards, and this improved their long COVID symptoms. So they've completely misrepresented that as well. Like, the study is inconclusive, but it doesn't for a second suggest that the vaccine is the origin of the spike protein. Like, they're looking at long COVID, essentially. They're looking at a broad array of things and seeing if there is, as you said, one mechanism underlying the syndrome. But how that's been represented by Woody Harrelson and Joe Rogan is completely incorrect. And you know who else they only went and had a bloody go at?
Oh, hit me.
The Girl Scouts of America.
I was not expect what.
Nobody expects the like. That's why they're so insidious.
Is this an anti-feminist rant coming?
No, it's slightly less stupid, but in many ways much more stupid. So Woody Harrelson was making the claims not specifically about Girl Scouts, but about the cookies that they sell. You know, which are exclusively sold by the Girl Scouts, and it's for charitable organisations. My understanding is. Anyway, Woody Harrelson said, "I was reading a study on Girl Scout cookies where they break them down and find out what's in them. Holy shit, they're fucking toxic as fuck. There's so many bad ingredients. Thin mints being the worst of the offenders."
Shout out Thin Mints. I love them.
Thin mints. 5 flavors of Girl Scout cookies contain levels of glyphosate and heavy metals above EPA water safety limits. The new investigation found 100% of Girl Scout cookies, glyphosate, the controversial herbicide found in Roundup, 88% contain toxic metals like arsenic, lead, and mercury. And so Rogan, because he's up on this shit as well. Rogan says Thin Mints had the highest glyphosate levels at 111.07 ppb, which is parts per billion, 334 times the levels of what experts say are harmful. Well, so the Girl Scouts.
I'm thinking right now. Hold on, guys. Do we blame the Girl Scouts, or can we blame the chemtrails for this?
Well, let's see.
It's in all the ingredients. Come on, the Girl Scouts aren't trying to kill you. It's because the chemtrails have put these chemicals in the ingredients, and that's what's happened. Surely.
Also, Joe Rogan's a very popular program, right? Okay, for well-known Hollywood actor Woody Harrelson, and for Joe Rogan to go on that and to millions and millions of people say that the Girl Scouts of America cookies are fucking toxic as fuck, full of arsenic, lead, and mercury, with levels 334 times what the level that experts say are harmful. You'd hope that they were right, wouldn't you? Because like otherwise, that's libelous, isn't it? That's got to be actionable, surely. Well, it turns out that the Girl Scouts are actually facing a class action lawsuit themselves. And so what Rogan and Woody Harrelson are doing is repeating part of this. In the courts of New York, the non-profit organisation and the licensed bakers of their beloved cookies, ABC Bakers and Ferrero USA's Little Brownie Bakers, are being sued. And the studies that Joe Rogan brought attention to are being cited. Now, the Girl Scouts have responded. They said, "Bring it, bitch." No, they didn't. They said, "A recent report claimed that our Girl Scout cookies contain certain levels of glyphosate and heavy metals. We want to address these allegations and share the facts. Girl Scout cookies are made with ingredients that adhere to food safety standards set by the FDA and other relevant authorities. Our trusted bakers remain committed to compliance with all food safety standards and regulations set forth by the US and Drug Administration, FDA, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and other relevant health authorities. These standards ensure that food products are safe for consumption. As a result, Girl Scout cookies are safe to consume and are manufactured in accordance with all food safety regulations." So they went on to say that, like, basically any farm product has got some level of glyphosate and other heavy metals that could be considered toxic. They say environmental contaminants, which can include heavy metals, can occur naturally in soil. This means that nearly all foods using plant-based ingredients, including organic foods, may contain trace amounts. This does not mean that these foods are harmful to consume.
Hold it.
Yeah, like I got the reference. So basically, like what it might be, or certainly what it may be, is that they're picking up not the metals but the minerals. Just like within chemtrails, where people thought that there was aluminium and things like that in the soil, it wasn't aluminium the metal; it was aluminium the mineral, which is fairly ubiquitous in soil and is perfectly harmless. It has got some effects on crops. Um, in as much as any type of soil has got effects on crops, you need like certain types of soil to grow certain types of things, but it's not. So I thought maybe it's that. Maybe it's just that like the FDA has got some fairly shoddy standards in comparison to say Europe or whatever. But I had a bit of a sort of a poke around because I was like, what's going off with this? Because like, and this was the thing that a few weeks ago I phoned you up. I was like, oh, I've got balls deep into this thing. It's ridiculous. So anyway, I found this lawsuit. It was on this website called The Legal Journal. And The Legal Journal lists some rather strange aspects of this lawsuit. So independent laboratories discovered dangerous levels of glyphosate and heavy metals in every Girl Scout cookie tested across 3 states, according to a recently released groundbreaking study. The investigation found that 90% and 96% of samples contained lead. 88% showed the presence of 5 different toxic metals. Health researchers expressed particular concern about the high levels of glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup weed killer, which some studies have linked to autism spectrum disorders. And at that point, my spider senses started tingling. Autism spectrum disorders. Word? So anyway, this lawsuit goes on. Laboratory testing commissioned by GMOscience.org, which is a consumer advocacy group, and moms across America, revealed widespread contamination across all cookie varieties. The Health Research Institute in Fairfield, Indiana, performed glyphosate testing, while New Jersey laboratories certified conducted heavy metal analysis on 25 samples from California, Iowa, Louisiana. And the test screened for glyphosate and AMPA, which is its breakdown product, 5 heavy metals. See if you recognize any of these: aluminium, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, all the chemtrails chemicals.
Hold it.
Yeah, and also chemical residues and contaminants. The claim that glyphosate causes autism is backed up by citing Dr. Maria Rodriguez, who's the lead researcher at the Developmental Disorders Research Institute. She explained the significance of the 2021 clinical psychopharmacological and neuroscience study. Our research demonstrated that glyphosate exposure during critical development periods produced behavioral changes consistent with autism spectrum disorders. Finding these same compounds in popular children's cookies raises serious public health concerns. So, can you spot the red flags? Let's just go backwards. The first one is that they try and back up the claim that glyphosate causes autism by not citing a study, but by citing a woman who says that she did a study that she swears blind seemed to show this thing. That's not what you'd call good science. As we've spotted, all the metals that they supposedly found in these biscuits could well be not the metals, but the minerals that are harmless. But maybe GMOscience.org hasn't got an axe to grind. Maybe an organisation that specifically looks at demonising GMO science, maybe they are actually being fair, and maybe they are accurate in their lawsuit, which is basically to prove that somehow these cookies cause autism, essentially. So anyway, I thought, well, who the fuck is this GMO science? So I went to
Can't wait to find out.
So I went to their website, and it didn't.
It's Robert Malone.
Well, it didn't fill me with confidence because, like, there was no actual study there, right? They show the results of this study, but there isn't a study. Okay, and then you can click and follow the link that supposedly takes you to the study, and it takes you to a PDF version of the front page, which basically just shows you, the page that you've just gone to. And so I was like, that's unusual.
That's not a journal.
No. Anyway, so these tables show the amount of the stuff that they found, and it's by someone called Michelle Pirro, Stephanie Seneff, and Zen Honeycutt. But the article, the website says, and this was one thing that made me think, if the tests that you conducted were reproducible, what type of peer review did you do? And the response on the website says, transparency and scientific rigor are central to our work, and we appreciate your diligence in assessing the reliability of our findings.
No, wait. It sounds like a disclaimer.
Wait. Hang on. I need to start again because, like, transparency and you'll love this. Transparency and scientific rigor are central to our work, and we appreciate your diligence with assessing the reliability of our findings. One member of our team is an MIT research scientist with hundreds of publications authored by her. We also have educators, physicians, philanthropists, artists, activists, mums, farmers, and designers who are involved in our process. Right, good. That's great. They go on. Our testing followed stringent, validated methodologies to ensure accuracy and reproducibility. We utilized an independent ICO-accredited laboratory specializing in food contaminant analysis. The testing protocols adhered to standardized procedures for detecting toxicants, including mass spectrometry, with rigorous controls to eliminate cross-contamination of false positives. Additionally, we employed chain of custody documentation to maintain sample integrity from collection to analysis. The main laboratory utilized is Health Research Institute in Fairfield, Iowa, owned by a renowned researcher and author. You might have noticed they've not answered the question yet. While our findings have not undergone formal peer review in a scientific journal, the laboratory methods used are widely accepted in toxicological and food safety research. Furthermore, our results align with broader studies highlighting the presence of contaminants in processed foods, which reinforces their credibility. Yeah. So when asked, if these tests are accurate, why have you not had them reproduced and had them peer reviewed? They've said, What if our people went to MIT?
Who are you to ask us?
Who the fuck are you to ask us? Look, we did it properly. We don't need to have it backed up.
We asked
because
parents.
we
They
asked
know.
mums. We asked farmers, right? And who would know more than a farmer? Like, that's fucking embarrassing. Like, anyway, you know what else is embarrassing?
Elon Musk.
Well, no, we're still on this because Snopes had a bit of a look into it. And so Dr. Jessica B. Steyer, who's the CEO of Vital Statistics Counseling, public health scientist and health services researcher, and host of the Unbiased Science podcast, explained to Snopes in an email, the certified lab results show that all tested parameters fall well within established food safety guidelines. The variation between samples is normal, and no single result approaches levels of regulatory concern. In fact, the results demonstrate compliance with food safety standards rather than raising red flags. This is total fearmongering. The HRI lab reports show glyphosate levels for each tested samples fall well within EPA parameters deemed safe for human consumption. However, the results are measured in nanograms per gram, which after converting to parts per million shows the levels within acceptable ranges. For example, one sample of Thin Mints sourced from Louisiana testing at 111.07 nanograms per gram for glyphosate, the highest of all samples tested. This converts to 0.1111 parts per million, on par with the lowest tolerance determined by the EPA. So Steer told Snopes that a 66-pound child would need to consume approximately 9,000 cookies every single day for weeks to approach the EPA's chronic reference dose.
I could have done that as a kid.
Well, yeah, this is true. But
I wouldn't have been allowed to, but I could have done it.
the second piece of testing pertained to the heavy metals arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, and aluminium, all five of which the report claimed were present in 22 of the 25 samples. But according to the actual lab reports, according to NJ lab reports, an accredited laboratory that tested the samples for these metals, this is true. Snopes cross-referenced the chart below from GMO Science and found it to accurately reflect the lab reports. So, as you say, there are these metals. However, GMO Science's charts cite the EPA's regulation of metals within drinking water, an important detail that serves to skew the perception of the data presented. Scientifically speaking, using drinking water standards for food guidelines is like comparing apples to oranges. The body processes contaminants differently in food versus water, which is why we have separate standards. For example, cadmium from food has much lower absorption rate than cadmium in water. Additionally, we consume much more water daily than any single food item, which is why water standards are more stringent. Using water standards to evaluate food creates unnecessary alarm and doesn't reflect how these substances actually interact with our bodies. Steer told Snopes it would take thousands of cookies daily to even approach concerning levels of lead or cadmium. This illustrates the fundamental principle of toxicology, that the dose makes the poison. Virtually anything can be harmful in sufficient quantities, but the levels detected here are far below levels that could cause harm through normal consumption. Based on certified laboratory results for the New Jersey laboratories, the levels detected are well within normal ranges for grain-based products. The highest lead level, 42.5 parts per billion, remains below the FDA's action level of 100 parts per billion for foods intended for children. The mercury levels, mostly under 2 parts per billion, are far below the FDA's 1,000 parts per billion action level for seafood. These levels are consistent with what we typically see in similar products and don't indicate a safety concern. So just to sort of back up, this study said that Girl Scout cookies were dangerous and had dangerous amounts of chemicals and heavy metals in them. The heavy metals weren't metals, they were minerals, and the levels were far, far below the safe level. The reason they managed to skew the results by using the wrong set of measurements.
Standard.
Yeah, they just simply lied about the amount of glyphosate in it, and they did this with their own laboratories, which they refused to have it tested again and refused to have it peer reviewed because they knew that when anybody would test this, it would turn out to be bullshit. But this was repeated by Woody Harrelson and Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience without fact checking, and they essentially slandered an institution
that's all well and good and all very interesting, but the whole time that you've been talking about that, the only thing I could think of is I bet Neil's never had a Girl Scout cookie.
I've smoked Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, there is a strain, isn't there? Girl Scout
Yeah.
cookies.
But no, I don't think I have actually. No, they're not. Did you have them when you were in America? Did you? Or?
Yeah, we had them on base. It was always like a really a fun experience when like they came around. It was like because they weren't on sale all year or nothing. It was
That's a
just like they would
fucking
do like charity drives and
yeah.
sell them then. And they were great in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid. Like they probably had different like ingredients in them. To be fair, they probably weren't.
They probably did have
mass
lead in them
produced.
at that point.
Yeah, but they were great. Yeah, I loved like thin mints, and then there was like one that I used to always eat. Probably people think that's weird, but Samoa, and it was like covered in coconut. I like bounties. I'm like one of the only people in England that seems to like a bounty.
No, I don't like a bounty. No,
I know nobody does. Everyone thinks you're weird because you like bounties. You're like, what? It's lovely.
Fair enough. But
yeah, Girl Scout cookies, man. That's the only thing I think about the whole time. It's like, oh,
I've
never had one of these. But thanks for the breakdown anyway. It was brilliant.
Yeah. I had a Twinkie. I've had a Twinkie. That was nice.
And you survived.
Yeah, they were all right, and they were massively out of date because they were sent to me by this girl that lived in America, and she went to our school and then she moved back to America, and yeah, she sent them to me, and by the time they arrived, they're about like a month out of date. But you know,
when did she send them? 10 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
They never expire.
Oh well, this is it. It tasted fine, like as far as I could tell. So yeah, it was all right. But yeah, so that's how Joe Rogan and Woody Harrelson got a lot of shit wrong and slandered a lot of people. Anthony Fauci for one, and made errors about Robert Malone, and yeah, got it all wrong about Girl Scout cookies. So UFC is increasingly getting sort of drawn into the conspiracy world. Like we're seeing people like Conor McGregor trying to sort of force their way into the sphere of politics. We're seeing crossover with the manosphere and men's rights movements. Donald Trump, for Christ's sake, is at the UFC, and he's sort of interacting with Dana White, Joe Rogan, obviously, and then you're getting people like the T.W.A.T.S turning up. So you got Dana White and the T.W.A.T.S and Conor McGregor all there, and that's weird, really, because, like, you know, as far as I'm aware, the place for sex trafficking and rape is the WWE. Badum-ts. Didn't really need a badum-ts. Too serious a joke for that, but it's. But anyway, it's still true. And but anyway, so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this sort of
auga in there as well to make it even worse.
Nice, yeah, some air horns. Yeah, no, look into it. Vince McMahon, terrible human being, and Stephanie McMahon probably complicit in it, and she's now running the Department of Education in America, which is stupid. Anyway, so there's this UFC fighter called Bryce Mitchell. And for some reason, he decided to come on Twitter and explain why he knows that the Earth is flat and it doesn't rotate.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah. So I've watched this video, and I've watched this video a few times, and I've got absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He draws a ball, right? And he says that if you're in a helicopter, the higher that you go, the longer it would take to get around the entirety of the planet. And it's like, well, I mean, yes and no, because the air's thinner, so it means you can go faster, but technically, I suppose you're going further, yeah. But it depends how high you go, because, like, the planet's very, very big, so I think you'd have to go a long way to make it significantly further distance. But yes, I think that is a thing. Like, anyway, how this even begins to fucking show that the Earth is flat, I've got no idea. Like, I've got absolutely no idea. I presume or assume that he's gone, and it doesn't, does it? It doesn't matter how high you fly, you still travel the same distance at the same time. And to be honest, I don't even know if that's true. But that's fucking stupid. Anyway, last year, Bryce Mitchell said that he'd want to homeschool his son because, and obviously it's not to do with something silly like flat earth or anything like that. He's put more thought into it. It's because he doesn't want his son to grow up to be communist or to worship Satan or to be gay. Which is obviously, some of the things that can happen if you go to school.
You're not allowed to graduate if you're not those things.
Well,
these
this
days.
is it. You need a certain amount of credit in all of those things. Like, like at least half a semester of sort of like limp reach arounds. Like, that's all you have to do. Just grind through it. Think of it like cookery or like home economics. Nobody liked doing that. You just sort of forced your way through it. I got pissed in home economics on more than one occasion. Whenever there was like this is when I was like teenager. Like, whenever we had to make some sort of apple crumble or apple pie or anything like that, I'd nick like half a bottle of port from my mum and put it in the pie and drink some of it. And yeah, great days. Anywho, so in 2024, Bryce Mitchell said, "We're going to have to homeschool all our kids or they're all going to end up turning gay." And he said this on Instagram whilst holding his infant son, Tucker, who he said, "The reason I'm going to homeschool Tucker is because I don't want him to be a communist, I don't want him to worship Satan, and I don't want him to be gay." Mitchell, who's got a record of 16-3, UFC featherweight fighter whose nickname is Thug Nasty, made the homophobic remarks right after he encouraged his nearly 500,000 Instagram followers not to vaccinate their children, and just before he complained that public schools don't have enough students reading the Bible. He said they took it out of schools and replaced it with Edgar Allan Poe, who shacked up with his cousin. Said Mitchell, an Arkansas native who works as a cattle farmer when he's not in the MMA cage. My son ain't going to be reading no Edgar Allan Poe, okay? He's going to be reading the Bible. Now, I don't know whether you've ever read any Edgar Allan Poe and if you've ever read the Bible, but there's plenty more fucked up shit in the Bible than there is in Edgar Allan Poe.
It truly is.
What's that bit about? And they favoured the men whose emissions were like that of horses. That makes a raven saying Eleanor and nevermore over and over again pretty fucking tame. Like the bit where Noah gets raped in his sleep by his son. That bit. That really does make the
by
telltale.
his son's wife.
No, it's not
by his daughter.
No, it's by his son.
No, it's by his daughter.
I don't think it is. Isn't it? Let's have a look. Either way, there's a lot of rape in the Bible, and there's not that much in, say, the Telltale Heart. There's a bit of murder, obviously, but also there is quite a lot of murder in the Bible. One thing, though,
Jamie's going to fact check this.
I thought it was Shem or Ham or whatever.
No, I'm sure it's his daughter or something.
Yes. Well, no, it's Ham. Oh, Ham rapes his mother. Hey up. Bloody hell. This is some people have interpreted that Ham did in fact rape his father. Others people say that Ham raped his mother. We'd really need to find the director's cut to see which is canonically accurate.
It seems to be about the interpretation of the word saw.
Yeah.
That Ham saw his father.
Saw his nakedness.
But that means the same with like also in the book of Genesis you got Adam and Eve where they saw their own nakedness. So it's not necessarily like to do with having sex, it's about seeing their shame.
This is why you should, when you're looking for these things, it's probably why you should go to school to learn these things rather than try to interpret them yourself. Because now one of the things I don't quite understand his beef with Edgar Allan Poe or why he's picked Edgar Allan Poe. One of the weird things that he doesn't mention about Edgar Allan Poe was that Edgar Allan Poe, he did marry his cousin. She was 13 at the time. and he was I think 27. So, but
Oh,
for some,
well,
yeah.
there's a few parallels like that in the Bible too, which are seen as favorable.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I don't know why he's picked Edgar Allan Poe. Like, to be quite honest, he may have even got him
The
confused with.
only thing that he could probably remember,
Yeah,
like having to have read in high school, because you do read Edgar Allan Poe in American
I do.
literature
Yeah.
in high school. Yeah,
Well, fair enough.
I loved it. That was like one of like thing for me, like of where I started to really kind of get into poetry and narratives was like when I first encountered Edgar Allan Poe when I was in like 8th grade or something. And it's just the first thing that kind of started to speak to me on like a different level.
And did you manage to escape gay-free and with only mild communism?
I guess we'll leave that for the listeners to decide.
So this Bryce Mitchell fellow, this is not the only stupid thing that he said. In January 2025, he made several controversial statements, including praising Adolf Hitler, which is, for some reason, de rigueur at the moment. He also denied the Holocaust and made anti-LGBTQ remarks. He said, I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research.
Fucking hell. I thought it was going to be mild. Wow.
I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research, but not on my public education indoctrination. And he further claimed, when you realise that there's no possible way that they could have burned and cremated 6 million bodies, you're going to realise that the Holocaust ain't real. Additionally,
these tropes get so tired.
Additionally, Mitchell suggested that greedy Jews were destroying his country and turning them all into gays. It's just so stupid.
God's sake, man.
This is why you should go to fucking school. Like, and why you probably shouldn't get beaten in the fucking head as a profession.
Yeah,
Now,
I was thinking head trauma might have been
something
to blame here.
Well, this is the thing. I am spotting more and more overlap between the conspiracy crowd and the UFC and
say MMA. Sorry.
and MMA, but but yeah, but you can't spell conspiracy without CTE. You can, but never mind. You know who he doesn't like, and this surprised me.
Oh, he doesn't. I don't know. You put me on the spot. I hate this bit.
Other than Jews and gay people, like,
That's where I started going. I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't like a certain right wing figure. Ben Shapiro. Oh no, he doesn't like Jews.
yeah. No, he probably doesn't like Ben Shapiro. Well, in 2024, he denounced Elon Musk.
Oh shit!
And now this is weird, right? Because he went on Patrick Bet-David's show, and I think Patrick Bet-David is Jewish. But anyway, Bryce Mitchell opened up about his outlook on Elon Musk, who he insists is fooling the world and essentially hiding his true evil. Somebody that has fooled everyone, but simply cannot fool me, is Elon Musk, Mitchell claimed. I think that he could possibly be now. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But based off of what I think, he could be the false prophet who presents the mark of the beast to the world and presents the Antichrist on the world stage. That's how evil I think he is.
For the listeners, as soon as you started, I just put up like the 666 symbol in my hand. Like I just knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. Wow.
I'm surprised, actually, there isn't more Elon Musk is the Antichrist. Do you know what I mean? Because Christ, so many people have been the Antichrist over the years and whatnot. And
Mate, he looks like Beelzebub.
Yeah.
Like he is the face. He looks like the Lord of the Flies. Disgusting character.
Yeah. You know, if you were doing Edgar Allan Poe, we did Lord of the Flies, right? Okay. And there was a right Mandela moment with Lord of the Flies, and I don't know if anyone listening can remember this, but I remember like when I was about to start reading Lord of the Flies, I had at least 3 or 4 adults come up to me and go, "Ooh, Lord of the Flies, you like the bit where they eat Piggy?" And Piggy is the fat kid that's in it, and they don't eat Piggy in it. But that wasn't just me. Other people I know have said, yeah, everyone misremembers it and thinks that they eat the fat kid in it. They don't.
Wow.
They
No.
eat a pig and they kill Piggy. Oh, shit. Sorry, kids. If you would have spoiled the Lord of the Flies for you. But yeah, a bit of a weird one. Anyway, so Mitchell's not like, he's not an idiot. He goes on to explain his thoughts, revealing exactly why he believes Elon Musk to be the false prophet.
He goes on to reveal why he is an idiot.
So why do I think it's Elon Musk? Well, there's 2 pieces of evidence that are more significant. So why do I think it's Elon Musk? Well, there's 2 pieces of evidence that are more significant than any other pieces of evidence. One, it says in Revelations that the false prophet will deceive with fire from the sky. Elon Musk has this fake space program called SpaceX. And let me tell you, he hasn't been past the firmament. No man has ever been past the firmament. In all the excitement of Satan, I'd forgotten he was a flat earther.
That's brilliant. However, I need to ask you a question here.
Huh?
Are you reading his words verbatim? Did he say in Revelations?
Yeah. One, it
What
says
a
in
bastard.
Revelation.
See, this is the problem with fake-ass Christians. They don't know. It's not called Revelations. It's the book of Revelation. It's the revelation of Jesus Christ. It means they haven't actually read the title, let alone actually read the book. This one annoys me so much.
This
But
is a real like.
Don't mean to
bugbear.
interrupt, but
This is
let's
like
get back
me.
to it.
This is like me with the word factoid, isn't it? Like it just gets on our
Yes.
fucking tits.
It's exactly that. Anytime they go Revelations, in the book of Revelations, you haven't read it. You haven't even read the title.
He goes on to say, he's not been in space. He's not put a rocket on Mars. He's not done anything that he said he did. He's not a scientist. He's not a propulsion engineer. He doesn't make electric cars. He pays people to do it for him. He's one of the greatest scammers humanity has ever seen. I don't know. Maybe the Earth is flat. Who knows? Like, I think he's actually a step further than just a con artist. I think he's evil embodied. And I can say that with confidence because, like I said, one piece of scripture, the false prophet will deceive with fire from the sky. Mitchell continued, giving more reasons for why he links Elon Musk with evil. Here's another piece of evidence. Elon Musk is inventing chips that are going into people's brains. And I'm telling you, that is the behavior to look for when you're talking about the Antichrist. There's going to be a mark on everybody's head, and there's going to be a mark on their hand. That's what they call the mark of the beast. And I'm telling you, Elon Musk, if he hasn't invented the mark of the beast yet, he's laying the groundwork for the Antichrist to take that mark of the beast and implement it on all humans. Elon Musk has actually put a chip in somebody's brain and convinced them that they're healthier. Now I'm telling you, that's beyond a con artist. That's evil embodied. To lie to somebody to the degree that you could tell them, hey, put this chip in your brain and I'll help you. He's going to convince millions of people to put that chip in their brain. And I'm telling you right now, he sounds like the false prophet, and the false prophet is going to present the Antichrist.
Can I take a minute here just to break down some of this context?
Yeah.
I think this was interesting to me, so I think it might be interesting to other people who are listening to this. Might be interesting to you too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this view that he has, not the flat earth stuff, but this view of the false prophet and the Antichrist coming to rule, and there being a microchip, and this common sort of narrative that is in Western Christianity now. Christianity is 2,000 years old. Do you know how old this teaching is?
What, the mark of the beast?
Well, all the the Antichrist is going to come and rule the planet as like a politician, and he's going to have a false prophet as like the forebearer of him, and it's going to be the one world government, new world order, that whole type of thing.
Did it start about the time that Non-Dare Call It Conspiracy came out?
It's 40 years old.
Fuck
It came
about,
out
seriously?
it came about in the 80s
Really?
by I can't remember the guy's name right now offhand, but his book was called The Late Great Planet Earth, and
Yeah.
this is where this whole idea comes from. It's so new to like Christianity, which goes back into antiquity. Nobody believed this stuff for like 1,950 years. Like, it's so new, and it's just weird how prevalent it is, and these people just repeat it like without understanding the historical context of like what people actually believed as Christians through millennia. It's fascinating to me.
Hang on, it's 40 years old. You know what's also nearly 40 years old? The Omen 3, in which Damien is played by Sam Neill, becomes a politician, and I believe he's like either the senator or the president or whatever, and he's trying to take over the world and create a one world government. Like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
fucking hell. Because like Revelation, the Book of Revelation is that the rapture, and is it
yeah, again, it's a modern day reading of what is said in the Book of Revelation. There's nothing about like a rapture actually happening. It's just like people
because there's an
have
argument about
interpreted a specific phrase or a specific reading from a little piece of it, of like being swept away in the middle of the night. And then they act like this means the pre-tribulation,
been taken
post-tribulation,
up
all this
and
kind of
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Again, this is all very, very new. This comes about in the 80s.
Wow. So a lot of it is sort of like, it's more pop culture and conspiratorial reading of it than strictly biblical.
Absolutely.
And would that be coming from like your sort of like your sort of your Jerry Falwells and that sort of like evangelical, your Douglas Coes and
yes, your fundamentalist, conservative,
Billy Graham and all
American
of that.
Christian movement. Like that's where it comes from. I mean, like maybe it doesn't necessarily come exactly in the 80s, but it was most popularized.
That's where it's popularized
by
sort
a
of
book,
like
called
which
The
is
Late Great Planet Earth,
which is
like
also
that.
the same.
It must have been kind of in the zeitgeist of the movement there, but it is strictly that. It's not like Anglicism, like British Anglicism. That's not in it. Like people don't think of like the devil and Antichrist like that, even in like the Church of England.
Well, I'm just thinking though, like, because these three things have come together basically, like, so this concept of like the sort of the Antichrist and the sort of physical devil, and anti-communism, and this concept of the New World Order. It's all coming together from these same people at the same sort of time, isn't it? And cultural Marxism, all of that, it's from that same group of people, the Heritage Foundation people, Paul Weyrich, as you say, Billy Graham, and preachers like that, Jerry Falwell, Non-Dare Call It Conspiracy, the John Birch Society, and these three strands of which are pretty intertwined, have done pretty much everything to inform modern conspiracism.
Absolutely, like that. I'm saying this from experience. This is exactly what I believed. This is where I went. Like 9/11 was the pipeline to this fundamentalist religious kind of view of a conspiratorial world, basically.
And a lot of it, again, was based on sort of like, I've been listening to Behind the Bastards today, and they're excellent. Blavatsky, the Emerald tablets and things like that, and Brotherhood of the Snake, the Vril Society, all of these things, they're all works of fiction. They were written as works of fiction that people like Blavatsky then went, oh no, they weren't works of fiction. they were unbeknownst to the authors channeling knowledge, and it's like, oh wow, that's amazing. Like, this is where that stuff comes from. The concept of karma, apparently, like, and having good karma or bad karma was popularized by Blavatsky. Like, crazy. But yeah, so some pretty outrageous thinking by Bryce Mitchell there. But you know who doesn't tolerate outrageous thinking?
Keir Starmer.
Nearly. Keir Starmer's thought police.
That was close. Wicked.
Yeah. You see, the internet was up in the arms because of the thought police harassing a woman. And this was like, people were like, God, you can't do anything. Maybe Farage was right. You get arrested just for saying things in public in this country. And it was reported by the Daily Mail. Furious Brits have slammed Manchester police and Labour for shameful behaviour targeting a grandmother, and this was exposed by the Mail on Sunday. 2 police officers were caught on camera paying a visit to a grandmother simply for criticising Labour politicians on Facebook. That's not true. So we're off to a good start. Sorry for spoilers, but that's not why they were there. Detectives have been accused of acting like East Germany's Stasi secret police for quizzing Helen Jones over her calls for the resignation of local councillors, embroiled in the WhatsApp scandal exposed also by the Mail on Sunday. Police conceded that the 54-year-old had committed no crime. Yet Mrs. Jones said that she's effectively been silenced by the officers as she was intimidated by them calling at her door and is too terrified to post on social media again. Voters have rallied to her defence and blasted the shocking incident as a waste of police time and accused the government for alleged abuse of power. And all the Loza, Leilani, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Jackie Devoy and all the smart people were outraged. And just to remind people, we don't mean smart as intelligent, we mean smart like a smartphone, as in they are connected to the internet. However, there was a problem with this story, a big problem with it. It essentially wasn't true. Like, they didn't threaten this woman with arrest, they didn't silence her. What happened was, this woman had made some statements on WhatsApp, and somebody had reported to her and said, this woman is harassing me. This woman is being rude to me online and is harassing me. And so I want to press charges. And so the police looked at it and they said, yeah, there's no crime has been committed here. But if someone makes a complaint about somebody, the police have to go and inform them that a complaint has been made and tell them what action has gone. So the police said, we spoke to the woman for 6 minutes to advise her that she was the subject of a complaint of harassment and to answer any questions that she may have. No further action was necessary as no crime had been committed. We are under a duty to inform her that she is subject of a complaint. The genuine threats that have been made to local councils recently have meant it be more necessary to ensure all reports are looked at. So what's happening is this sort of like silly little local council drama going off. It's not important what it is. Everyone's in there. And obviously some people are threatening councillors because that's what people do. And in the heat of this, she's said something that somebody else has taken to be either threatening or harassing. Upon looking at it, they haven't. But if a police investigation has been opened into you, it's really just common courtesy to go and make sure that for a start, it was to see if she had any questions and to make sure that you haven't received any hate mail, you haven't received any bother or anything like that, because somebody reported you to the police. We don't think you've done anything. We're just here to check on your well-being and make sure you're all right.
It sounds like they're getting the other side of the story.
Yeah. it sounds like, this is the sort of community policing that most of the time people are saying, whoa, they're all so heavy-handed. Well, if they only just talk to us and stuff like that. Like, well, that's what they did. They turned up, knocked on this woman's door and said, hello, we're sorry, we need to tell you about this. There's no need to worry about it because no action is going to be taken. We just wanted to make sure that you've been okay. You've not had anything strange or unusual happen to you. No. Is there anything that you want to ask? Is there anything more that you can tell us about the situation? Right. Lovely. Thank you. And so one of the sort of complaints that was put about as well by sort of Loza and all of those, the smart people, was that why aren't they out solving real crimes? So the Manchester police made sure of telling people, on this day, officers were making 203 arrests for crimes like assault, burglary, and rape. Tackling these priorities and why the complaint was dealt with 2 days after it was reported. So they did it when they had time. Someone wasn't getting stabbed to death. But here's the thing, all that stuff, the Greater Manchester Police, the statement from them and their response, that was all in the article. So all the smart people had been complaining about something in which the article itself said it really wasn't a big deal. I mean, that is irresponsible on the part of the Daily Mail, and they know what they're doing. It was just a rat-a-tat-tat story. But everyone was complaining it and sharing it, and even if you read the actual story, it said she wasn't arrested. She wasn't harassed. She was spoken to very politely to inform her of something, and then they went on their day. And if she feels like I've intimidated into silence because of that, why? You didn't say anything wrong. At no point did anyone say you mustn't say that again. In fact, they found what you said to be perfectly fine. So, just stupid. But this is, again, we've spoken about this a bit before. This is the problem with print media and stuff like that, and even online media. They're in such a saturated market now that people they need to draw people in with flashy headlines, which has always been the case, but it's even more sort of egregious and slippery nowadays. And also, they tend to know that people don't read the article; they take from it what they will. All that stuff that the police said was right at the end of the article. It was, or about 2/3 of the way through. But most people would have given up after the second photo. Do you know what I mean? So they don't get to that point. All they know is that some woman's been harassed. They don't read it properly. They've pretty much formulated what the story was before they even finished reading the headline. And this is evidenced by the fact that it was regurgitated by all these fucking smart people.
It's almost as if they're not trying to inform people, but control a narrative.
Weird like that, isn't it?